Okay, so if you've spent any time at all on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram lately, you've probably seen it. I'm talking about this huge trend that's like impossible to miss: POV story animation. So let's break down what this whole thing is and why it's so wildly effective.
Does this look familiar to you? I bet it does. You know, these simple, almost kind of childlike drawings with a voice telling some absolutely wild personal story. You probably scrolled past hundreds of these things without even thinking twice about it, but you are actually watching a whole new genre take over the internet.
And they almost always kick off with a title you just can't ignore. Something super dramatic and, let's be honest, kind of juicy, like this one. It's got one job and one job only: to make you stop scrolling and click. It's promising you drama, it's promising you a conflict, and most importantly, a really satisfying ending, all packed into just a couple of minutes.
So, what is this stuff, technically? Well, the genre is called POV story animation. The name kind of says it all, right? It's always a story told from a first-person eye perspective, straight to you. And the key ingredients are always those super simple visuals and a very direct, straight-to-the-point narration style.
But how in the world do these simple little videos rack up millions and millions of views? Well, it turns out there's a pretty consistent formula behind the magic. Let's really get into the anatomy of what makes one of these videos go viral.
And really, it boils down to this brilliant four-step formula. First, you've got that killer hook in the title. Next, you have really simple visuals that don't get in the way of the story. Then, the story introduces a conflict that's super relatable. You know, a horrible boss, a crazy neighbor, we've all been there. And it all builds up to that sweet, sweet, satisfying payoff where the good guy wins.
Now, about those visuals, you might think, oh, the art is just basic because the creator isn't a great artist, but that's not really it. This minimalist style is actually a very smart, deliberate choice. It makes you lean in and listen to hang on every single word. It's a feature, not a bug.
And then there's the voice. So often, it's that robotic text-to-speech narrator. And this is a really clever trick. It gives the story this anonymous vibe, almost like you're listening in on a secret confession. And that kind of detached, monotone voice just makes the crazy, dramatic stuff happening in the story feel even more bizarre.
Okay, so we know how they're made, but that still doesn't totally explain why we can't stop watching them. To understand that, we have to get into some pretty powerful psychology. Right, this is the million-dollar question. What is it about these simple drawings that make them so addictive? Why do we suddenly find ourselves like 30 minutes deep into a playlist about someone's terrible first date, illustrated with what are basically stick figures?
This year really lays it all out. You know, traditional animation, like a big movie, often keeps you at arm's length. It's beautiful, but you're an observer. POV storytelling does the exact opposite. By using that first-person eye perspective and those simple drawings, it yanks you out of your seat and puts you right into the narrator's shoes. It just feels so much more personal and immersive. So here's the magic trick, how it all comes together. You aren't just watching a story. You feel like you are the main character. It has the thrill of listening to some anonymous, juicy gossip. And this is huge. It requires almost zero mental effort to watch. In just a few minutes, you get this quick hit of emotion, that feeling of justice or a good laugh. It's the perfect loop of low-effort, high-reward content. Which brings us to another massive reason for this genre's success. Pretty much anyone can make one. Seriously, you don't need a Pixar-sized budget or a giant team of animators to get your story out there anymore.
I mean, just look at this toolkit. Everything here is so easy to get. You've got basic drawing programs, free text-to-speech websites, tons of royalty-free music, and of course, a literally endless supply of stories from personal experience or places like Reddit. The barrier to entry is so low, it's practically on the floor. It's totally democratized this kind of storytelling.
So, if we take a step back and look at the big picture, what are we really seeing here? Is this just another flash-in-the-pan internet trend, or is it something deeper? I think it's tapping into something much, much older.
And this quote just nails it. As humans, we have this ancient, built-in need to share our experiences, to tell stories. This whole POV animation thing, it's just the newest version of that. The campfire is now the glowing screen in your hand, and the tribe is the entire globe. But that core desire to connect through a good story, it's exactly the same.
And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? It's ridiculously easy to make, it's effortless to watch, and it delivers a real emotional punch. You could argue this is the most perfectly evolved form of storytelling for our modern, internet-driven world.
So, it leaves us with this one big, fascinating question.
In a world with shrinking attention spans, where we're all still hungry for real, personal connections, could this super simple, direct, and immersive format actually be the future of how we tell our stories online? It's definitely something to think about the next time one of these videos pops up in your feed.